please stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. I just have a few little brief notes to read before we start the meeting. Applicants, you will be muted by staff until your agenda is called. Once called, the applicant will be unmuted to make their presentation and answer any questions of the commission. When your item is complete, voted on, you are free to leave the meeting. Public comment will be solicited during each actionable agenda item. Once I ask for public comment on a specific item, please check raise hand in GoToWebinar in order to make public comment. Before being individually identified, all members of the public will be muted. The meeting organizer will announce the speakers by stating their name and unmute their audio to allow up to 3 minutes of public comment. When called, please state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comment, speaking clearly during your allotted time. Very important notes, please limit any background noise to the extent possible. When speaking, please be sure to identify yourself that we know who is speaking, and do not use the chat or question button in GoToWebinar, as these functions will not be monitored during the meeting. And as a reminder, this meeting can be viewed live on Comcast Local Channel 18 or streamed at www.royalpalmbeach.com/YouTube. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Lauren, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chairwoman June Perrin,
Here.
Vice Chairman David Leland,
Here.
Commissioner Philip Marquis,
Here.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Miller, Lauren McClellan, alternate 1,
Here.
and Gerald Brown, alternate 2.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Can I have approval minutes for the previous meeting of the Planning and Zoning, please, at March 23rd?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 23rd meeting. I'll second it.
And then the first and the second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes pass 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, the first item on our agenda is a public hearing to consider application number 20-165. The applicant is seeking architectural approval for new wall and monument signage for an existing child care center within an existing building in the Regal Center Planning Commission development located at 1013 North State Road 7. Thank you. Oh, my mic is far away. Oh, maybe this is my mic here. Sorry about that, people. Is this my mic? Can you hear me better?
We can hear you.
Good, thank you. Okay.
And Madam Chair, I think the applicants are in the room. This is Mitty. If they could approach the podium, and I'll swear them in.
Over there. Okay. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Eric Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Could you raise your right hand for me? I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you. And I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 20-165 that need to be disclosed at this time.
Done.
No.
Thank you. You may proceed, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Village staff, is Brad here?
Bradford is here.
Yes,
Brad,
I am here.
how are you this
If I can
evening?
share my screen. Lauren, can I share my screen? Okay, I hope that everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
The applicant is requesting architectural approval to add new wall and monument signage for an existing child care center located at 1013 North State Road 7 within the Regal Center Planned Commercial Development. The applicant is proposing one wall sign which reads O2B Kids. The channel letters proposed for the colors for the wall signage are Pantone 266C purple, Pantone 123C yellow, and Pantone 376C green. And staff is recommending approval of this application. With that being said, Madam Chair, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bradford. Applicant, would you like to make any comments or presentation?
No, I think no comments or presentation necessary. It's existing sign is a multicolored preschool sign. We're changing it out for a different multicolored preschool sign.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public?
None at this time.
Seeing no comments from the public, can I have any comments or questions from the commissioners? Have any comments or questions? No. Seeing no comments or questions or comments from the commissioner? Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion, we approve application 20-165.
Thank you. And can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any of those opposed? Seeing none, motion passed 5-0. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Have a very pleasant evening, sir, okay? Application number 2 is a public hearing to consider application number 20-164. The public is seeking architectural approval for new wall signage for a property located at 171 State Road 7.
And Madam Chair, if the applicant approaches the podium, I'll swear them in again as soon as they are at the podium. I believe they're there in person. Hi, sir. Could you state your name for the record for me?
Tim Luzader.
Thank you, sir. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Can you raise your right hand? You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 20-164 that need to be disclosed.
None.
None. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Village, Mr. Bradford, would you like to make any presentation?
Yes, can everybody see my screen?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, great. The applicant is requesting architectural approval for new wall signage, approval for a medical office located at 171 South State Road 7. The applicant is proposing two wall signs which read Haas in translucent blue, Pantone 3125C, and plastic surgery, and black vinyl overlay. Staff is recommending approval of this application. With that being said, Madam Chair, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Would you like to make any presentation or any comments regarding this application?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public?
Not at this time.
Seeing no comments from the public, any comments or questions from the commissioners, please?
No.
Comments or questions? Seeing no comments or questions, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve application 20-164 as read.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Phillip. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any of those opposed to the motion, say nay. Seeing none, motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much. Our next application number is 20-159. The applicant is seeking architectural approval for new wall signage for a property located at 165 South State Road 7.
Thank you, sir. Could you state your name for the record? I need to swear you in.
Gil Strelick.
Thank you, sir. Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 20-159 that need to be disclosed.
None.
No, none. Thank you very much, Mitty.
Thank you.
Village staff, would you like to make the presentation?
Yes. Okay. This is in the same inline stores. The applicant is requesting architectural approval for new wall signage for a retail store located at 165 South State Road 7. The applicant is requesting architectural approval for a capital carpet and tile and window fashions, as you can see here on this slide. And again, on the storefront here. Staff is recommending approval, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bradford. The applicant, would you like to make any comments or?
No, ma'am, it's self-explanatory like the previous before me.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Are there any comments from the public? Lauren? So any comments from the public regarding this application? No. Okay, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the commissioners? No?
I just like to say that those letters are all uniform. That picture does not represent what the final product is, right? The picture that was shown looks like there are almost two different styles of lettering there.
No, sir. The only difference is upper and lower case. They're all the same style.
And we've got a bad picture that we're being shown.
The and where it says tile and windows, the word and is lowercase. Everything else is uppercase. That's the only difference.
No, I see that. What I'm saying is the I in tile and the L in tile look
It
like
must be something on the computer or something with Bradford's.
Okay, that's I kind of figured that. Yeah.
Everything is the same height and same uniform, same font.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Good catch. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? No comments or questions? Seeing none, can I please have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve application number 20-159.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Say aye. Nay. Seeing none, motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much.
Here you go. Thank you, board.
Thank you also. Have a great day. All the best. And the next item 4, is a public hearing to consider and make recommendations to the village council regarding variance application number 20-162, an application by Evans and Land Consulting and various ordinance. The applicant is seeking a variance to allow currently existing electrical distribution wires to remain above ground on poles where Village Code Section 22-50 requires these electrical distribution wires to be placed underground, rather than on poles or towers situated within a flower power and light and easement generally located 2,300 feet south of Southern Boulevard and 2,500 feet west of State Road 7. Thank you.
And I'll give the applicant a moment to approach the podium. I believe he's there in person.
The applicant is here.
Thank you, sir. Can you state your name for the record?
Brian Tuttle.
Can you raise your right hand for me? This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to application 20-162 that need to be disclosed at this time.
No.
None.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradford?
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow currently existing electrical distribution wires to remain on poles where Village Code Section 2250 parens A, parens 8, electrical supply system requires that the electrical distribution wires be placed underground rather than on poles or towers. These electrical distribution wires lie within the Florida Power and Light easement located 2,300 feet south of Southern Boulevard and 2,500 feet west of State Road 7, which run east and west approximately 2,500 feet. Here you have some pictures of those power lines where this is the power line that is required to be buried, and you can see the larger regional distribution lines here. Again, this is the one that is being required to be buried. Back here, you can see quite a few wires, and those are those regional distribution lines. The criteria for granting a variance. And what I'll do here is I'll read these 1, 2, 3, and 4 and on into 7. And I'll, after I read the code requirements for granting a variance, I will read the applicant's justification for that particular variance criteria. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved. The applicant contends, quote, having a property that includes a 160-foot wide, 2,500-foot long utility easement that includes both 60-foot tall electrical transmission lines and a 35-foot tall distribution line running through is a special and unique circumstance. Number 2, does not result from the actions of the applicant. The applicant contends the property owner could not find any other similar situations within the village where a property owner was required to bury existing distribution lines which were within the same easement as the transmission lines. Other property owners with similar easements are not similarly compelled to comply with Code Section 2250A8. And criteria 3 will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. The existing power lines in question, both distribution and transmission, were in place at the time the applicant acquired the property. The distribution lines in question are existing and not specifically subject to land development activities associated with the master plan. The variance will not confer any special advantage since the property owner has been unable to find another property owner required to bury distribution lines when the distribution lines lie within the easement, which also contains transmission lines. A literal interpretation of the provisions of this division would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. The applicant contends the easement is dominated by the far more numerous and far taller transmission lines. A literal interpretation of the code would result in the burial of the existing distribution lines in a quasi-public use area while leaving far more intrusive transmission lines as they are. The applicant found several areas within the village where full public access is used daily in the large FP&L easement, and the distribution lines are not buried. The variance granted is a minimum variance that will make possible a reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The variance requested applies only to the specific easement where transmission and distribution lines are commingled. More specifically, the variance request applies to the existing transmission lines shown. All other areas included in the master plan will comply with the code. This is the minimum variance that will make possible and reasonable use of the land. 6 will be in harmony with the general intent purpose of this division. As referenced earlier, the intent of the code to reduce the visual and physical intrusion of overhead power lines would not be achieved with compliance with Code Section 2250A8. The relatively smaller and fewer number of distribution lines would be buried, while much more intrusive, larger, and more numerous transmission lines would remain in place. The applicant will comply with Code Section 2250A8 in every other instance where FP&L distribution facilities are located singularly in an FP&L easement. Therefore, the requested variance is in harmony and intent of this chapter. Will not be injurious to the area involved or detrimental to the public welfare. The distribution lines in question have been existing in this location for many years. Their continued existence in this location will not result in a negative impact to the neighborhood or the general welfare. Village staff is not in support of this variance because staff believes no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, which will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of the rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district. It is not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Again, staff requests a recommendation of denial to be submitted to Village Council regarding this application. And with that being said, Madam Chair, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. And the applicant, would you like to make a presentation or any comments, please?
Yeah, I want to present two pictures that Bradford will put up there. I want you to understand that we understand the concept of the code, that when you're building a neighborhood, you want the lines buried. And I'd like to give you a couple mitigating factors. Number one, FP&L has identified to us that all of our power for the entire site will be supplied through underground lines. They're going to come directly from the lift station across the canal, and they're going to be buried, and they're going to run through the project. They've also identified to us that the distribution lines in question are going to be hardened this year, which means they're going to remove all the wood poles and they're going to make them all concrete poles. Now, the purpose of the, I can only estimate that the purpose of the code is to verify that you have good sustainable power, it's buried, and it increases the view and the looks of the community, which all makes sense, and we do in any situation we can. So in this situation, we have letters from FP&L saying they're not going to attribute, they're not going to connect to the distribution lines, and they're going to go underground. But what we need from them is a letter saying that they will never connect to the distribution lines. And they can't give that. So because they can't give that, we had to agree to a condition on our engineering plans until the variance is approved that we would bury these lines. The problem with that is we don't have to bury them because we're not connecting to them, but that condition is going to lay out there for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And who knows what FP&L may do 15 years from now, and somebody could come back at that time and say, you need to bury these lines. So I would submit to you that the primary reason that we want this variance is, number one, we will have underground power lines. Number two, the intent of the code is to ensure reliable power distribution. So we will have underline, and FP&L is hardening those lines, so even if they do connect to them, they will be hardened, and we will have a reliable power source. And number three, that the number three issue is aesthetics. If you look at this picture that's in front of your screen, there's two of them. There's one. Removing 3 lines from that picture will not change the way that looks. This is in a semi-private area where we have dry retention and no public is allowed. But there's another picture here right over there in front of Costco where there's a storage facility and traffic every day, and they weren't required to bury the lines there, so we don't feel that it's fair. I know I'm not supposed to bring up the cost, but the cost is tremendous to bury these lines. So we ask you for your support in this variance because, number one, we are providing a good, reliable power system. Number two, we're verifying FP&L is going to harden the poles. And number three, doing this variance doesn't change the view of the community, and it is in a semi-public private area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tuttle. Are there any comments or questions from the public? And seeing no comments or questions, may I ask the commissioners, do they have any comments or questions from the commissioners? Any comments or questions? Seeing no comments or questions, can I have a motion on this, please? Would anybody like to make a motion? Would anybody like to make a variance on the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application 2162.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second on that motion, please? I get a second on that motion? Seeing that I do not have a second on a motion, let's analyze it. Okay. Comments or questions from the commissioners?
I have a question for Bradford. Bradford, can you explain that why this is denied again? Because I'm conflicting right now with my thoughts, and I'd like you to explain to us why again, please.
Well, when you look at this circumstance and the criteria of the code, and you look at that criteria of the code, we didn't feel as though it met the criteria of the code 100%. Did it get very close in those criteria? That would be something that you guys would want to deliberate on. I think that Brian Tuttle has made the argument that he is approaching meeting that criteria to a great extent. That's where
Bradford, if I could jump in as well, if you could put those variance criteria back up, but this is the job of the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. So Bradford has presented the criteria and he's read the applicant's responses. The applicant is there, but your job as the commission tonight is to evaluate what's before you against those criteria. As Bradford said, this is a requirement of your subdivision code that these lines be buried, but the applicant is there. So feel free to ask him any questions about any of those criteria. He does have the burden tonight to prove to you that he has met each of those criteria. They were also in your backup for tonight's meeting, along with his responses. So it is your job, staff can give their recommendation, but at the end of the day, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision as to whether you think the applicant has met his burden by competent substantial evidence. So I would urge you, the applicant is there to explain to you if you have questions about any of the specific criteria, to have him explain further, or to provide you with any other information that you have. Thank you, Bradford.
Thank you very much, Mindy.
If you'd like, I could go through 1 through 6 and give you our specific reasoning for each one.
Yeah, Brian, I'd like to hear that, please.
Okay. Specifically, the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land and structure or building involved. There are no other subdivisions that had to bury the distribution lines in Royal Palm where they run. They run through Black Diamond. They didn't have to bury them. They run through the Costco PUD. They didn't have to bury them. They run through all those different subdivisions. None of them. So they are peculiar to our land because our land is the only land that has the transmission lines and the distribution lines running through them with a new development. It does not result from any applications of the applicant. We didn't want to run them overhead because it would save us money. We didn't do anything. The property was there the way we got it. Number 3, it will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. No other developer had to do it. So I'm not getting any special privilege. I'm getting the same privilege every other developer got. He didn't have to bury him. Number 4, a literal interpretation of the provision of this division would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. Once again, every other property didn't bury them. I don't know why they didn't bury them, but they didn't bury them. So you are specifically doing the opposite of that. Number 5, the variance granted is a minimum variance that will make possible reasonable use of the land. That is true. And we have mitigating circumstances. 1, our power lines will be buried. 2, those power poles will be hardened. Other properties within the city didn't have to harden them. We're doing that too. 6, that the grant of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this division. That was my speech about beautification and power reliability. Burying those lines will make no difference to beautification, but power reliability, we are burying our lines and we are hardening the poles, so we are meeting that intent. And finally, number 7, such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental. They have been there for 30, 40 years. They will be there another 50 years. It's a semi-private area. It is not injurious to any public whatsoever.
Madam Chair, I have a question of staff.
Go ahead.
Bradford, Mr. Tuttle referred to other projects that didn't have to bury the lines. I wanted to ask and see why is that?
To answer that, I don't know if I have the exact answer for that. These developments that he's referring to occurred before me coming to the village, so I don't have that history knowledge. But I can tell you that Anthony Groves or Victoria Groves, which these lines travel through to get to Brian Tuttle's property, do have those lines. Brian, did you confirm? Did you go out and get pictures of that?
Yeah, I didn't bring them, but they are not buried anywhere along there.
So this is the same easement, same lines crossing from Victoria Groves to Brian's property. The aerials do show those lines there.
Thank you very much.
I can't tell you why they weren't buried. There could be a very good reason why they weren't, but at this point in time, I cannot answer. I cannot tell you why they weren't.
And Bradford, if I could jump in too, I can't speak again to the Costco, a couple of the references that Bradford threw out, but I can tell you that other projects have been required to bury lines. There was a Lennar project that was required to do just what the subdivision code requires. So there have been subdivisions that have followed the subdivision code. So again, I can't speak to the Anthony Groves or to the Costco. I haven't seen those lines, but that is a requirement of the village's subdivision code. So those lines are required to be buried when there are subdivisions being built. Thank you, Bradford.
Thank you, Matt. Ms. Bernard, would that be a later, recent subdivisions that being built, or were they older subdivisions?
Yeah, that's probably going to be the crux of the issue. Is some older subdivisions. The Lennar one I'm speaking of is a newer one. Your subdivision code's been in place for a while, but there are certainly older developments in the village. So I can't speak to those in terms of age, but the Lennar one is a recent example where the lines were required to be buried.
Yeah, I know some of the ones that Bradford mentioned were older subdivisions that were developed, I believe, quite a while back. So we might be looking at a type of a different situation now at the current time. So,
and just so, Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just so the commission is clear, that's a requirement of the subdivision code. So it's not that developments don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
If there are particular circumstances or variances in the past, I can't speak to that tonight, but it is a subdivision requirement, subdivision code requirement. So it's not something that we have the latitude as village staff or you as the commission to approve without the necessary variance being requested. As Brian said, he was given the option to have this be a condition of his final plat approval, which will be coming down the pipeline later, but the variance path was chosen to kind of vest that right and have it be memorialized. So that's why he's here before you tonight requesting the variance.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, may I please have a motion on this agenda item? I'd like to make a motion on agenda item, please. That would be agenda item number, application number 20-162.
All right,
Have a
I'll
second
make
on
a
that?
motion.
You'll
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I see that it doesn't meet the code, and also there's still issues with FPL that need to be resolved. And so on that basis, I'd like to make a motion for denial.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
2 nays
Okay.
and 2 yays. So it failed 3-2.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, before you get too quick ahead of me, before you get to board business, before we adjourn, you can announce the meeting, but tonight's meeting, we do need to reorganize this commission. So if after you announce the next meeting, I guess we can do it before, but we need to reorganize, so we need to have a new chair and a new vice chair. If you remember, last year, the April meeting was canceled. The April Planning and Zoning Commission meeting was canceled because of COVID. So we got a little bit off track in terms of our schedule, and then previous Commissioner Schillingford moved out of the village. So we reorganized last year at a time that wasn't April, but April is our normal reorganization schedule. So if we could have 2 items tonight, which would be you all appointing a chair and a vice chair. We need 2 separate motions to address each of those items. And if you could check the chair item first. And just as a reminder, your code does not allow the current chair to serve in consecutive terms. So one of the other commissioners would need to be nominated other than Ms. Perrin for the chair position. Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's a good game.
Hello, yes, I'd like to make a motion that we select Commissioner.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you as the chair cannot make this motion.
Huh?
You can't do it.
Unfortunately, you as the chair cannot make this motion
Oh, I
tonight.
can't make the recommendation? Oh, shucks, okay.
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation that we appoint David Leland.
Mhm. Adam. Make the quick.
Okay, I'll scratch that and we'll make it. We'll make it Adam.
Adam who?
I don't know what's his last
Miller.
name.
Oh, Adam Miller.
Miller.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I will second that.
I was gonna quit like the other guy did.
If you could call for a vote, Madam Chair.
Can I have a vote, please, on that for Adam Miller for the next chairperson of the meeting? Going forward for the P&Z? Can I have a vote on that, please?
Yay.
Yay. Yay. All five to pass, 5-0.
And that'll teach him not to miss a meeting.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We do that to anybody who misses meetings.
We said that before with
We
the
did
other guy.
that
He never came back.
Let you all be on notice to
Yeah,
that.
right.
And who's going to be chair?
Good.
And then we have to take
And
a
now for
vote.
vice chair,
Co-chair too.
do we have any motions?
I make a motion that Philip become co-chair.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
That'll teach you to nominate. Now you get nominated.
And now you know whether you show up or not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a printout of the sheets.
That's right. Give Phil
And
his
so that's
turn.
good. We're fine. All right, everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, you're all set. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'd like to adjourn this meeting until next month when we meet you again for May, okay?
Thank you.
Everybody have a safe and
May what?
enjoyable.
May 25th is the next
What do you
meeting.
want me to do the dates? May 25th. 7 months to Christmas.